I'm gonna beat you into the living death.
Welcome back to Yelling About Mixed Martial Arts, the show where I yell about mixed martial arts. I don't think it's much of a hot take to say that UFC 299 is probably going to be one of the best cards of the year. With the exception of the first round of the very first fight on the prelims, this card was packed with so much action that even Jailton Almeida couldn't wrestle it into a state of boredom. Yes, from start to finish, this card delivered in spades. And diamonds, as it were. And as critical as I was of the main event leading up to last Saturday, if it was going to be a vanity project for funfetti birthday cake O'Malley, at least it was a goddamn impressive one. But Sean retaining is just the predictable, non-needle-moving tip of the 299 iceberg, so let's break this thing down piece by piece. The early prelims really kicked off with a masterful performance from Asu Almabayev, who is now on a 15-fight win streak, with this being his second win in the UFC. Michel Pereira electric boogalooed his way to the cage, then sent Mikhail Olashechek's liver into headspins for half a round before securing a submission finish, and Felipe Lenz took a decision win over Iwan Kutelaba after kicking his lead leg so many times it looked like it was in the early phases of leprosy. Joanne Wood also picked up a narrow decision win and decided to retire afterwards, which was probably wise. But the real standout from the early prelims was this mythical creature with the 87-inch reach called Robles de Spain, who absolutely steamrolled Josh Parisian in his UFC debut. This 6'7" behemoth is now 5-0 in his professional career, with his last 4 fights totaling a combined 37 seconds. Let me reiterate, this man has fought pro 5 times. He has been inside of the cage for a total of 5 minutes and 31 seconds. He's an Olympic bronze medalist in Taekwondo, and entering the UFC, I can definitely say that he is already making a case for being named the greatest fighter to ever fight out of Orlando, Florida. It was either him or Felicia Spencer, but I give him the slightest of nods. Further into the prelims, Kyler Phillips matrixed his way to a very solid win over Pedro Munoz, ironically only a day after Francis Ngannou was sent into the bullet time pose by Anthony Joshua, but that's a whole nother story. Macy Barber and her thick ass handled Caitlin Chikagian with little problem, while Mateusz Gamrot had a slightly harder time handling Rafael dos Anjos into a decision after being dropped in the first and recovering. Knockdown or not, it looks like RDA is definitely settling into contentment with fighting out the rest of his contract on autopilot as his record continues to play red light, green light. To round out the prelims, yes, we're still talking about the prelims, that's how fucking good this card was, Jailton Almeida attempted to immediately go into wet blanket mode, but Curtis Blades' elbow said, "Nah, not today, Junior." Between this and his last fight against Derek Lewis, which I covered on the channel, I'm sadly having to reevaluate my assessment of Jailton, as it would seem that him and his striking coach apparently don't talk much. I don't know that to be a fact, I'm just going off the fact that his hands always seem to be around his opponent's waist to varying degrees of success, as opposed to ever actually being in their fucking faces. On the main card, Petr Yan and Song Yadong had a close fight, with Petr getting the dub and continuing to cling to a place in the title conversation. Gilbert Burns and Jack Della Maddalena had a very competitive fight before a late finish by Jack sent Gilbert to the great beyond, where he was joined by Benoit Saint Denis after he got knocked out by Dustin Poirier. Dustin took a lot of elbows and knees in the lead up to the power shot, in addition to jumping guillotine multiple times and succeeding with none of them, so either he still does have a little bit of juice left in the battery pack, or the staph infection Benoit was sporting is the real MVP. Speaking of MVPs, they had one of those shipped over on the slow boat from Bellator for this card, and boy did he make a splashy entrance with all of his showboatery. Michel Pereira might have done his dancing on the way to the cage, but Michael Venom Page pulled off so many moves inside of it, I'm surprised he didn't go for one of these. The The matchmaking couldn't have been better for MVP in his UFC debut against a visibly frustrated Kevin Holland, who couldn't figure out the range and unorthodox attacks of Page in the first round, and then also couldn't do that in the second or in the third. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't fun to watch, but now that he's got a number next to his name in the organization, I'm just left wondering what Page is going to do against someone who can figure out his game plan, which I suspect is a solvable puzzle. Since the organization is hotshotting him towards a fight with Leon Edwards to appeal to the British crowd they're so dead set on courting, maybe they could have him starch Colby Covington into retirement, which would be a bigger win than the win itself. The Vanity fight main event between Sean O'Malley and Marlon Chito Vera unfortunately went exactly as expected, but as I mentioned, at least it was a strong display of O'Malley's striking prowess against a Chito who never really seemed to be able to get out of second gear. It was also a fantastic display of doing absolutely nothing for the bantamweight division, except for basically gifting O'Malley a title defense so he can rest his clown fro a little easier at night now that his loss to Chito has been avenged. One of the things I hate most about Sean is him recklessly running his mouth while still somehow being a human charisma vacuum. Another thing I hate about him is the Jared Leto Joker facade he puts on to appeal to high schoolers who think 6'9" is a role model and smoking weed is mind-blowing. Underneath it all, O'Malley isn't as much of a goober as his image would lead one to believe. If you listen to his podcast with coach/BFF Tim Welch, Sean actually has a pretty goddamn high fight IQ. I wish I could like Sean, but all of these factors end up creating a dynamic that I can't fucking stand. You take a high-level fighter whose trash talk is meme-worthy, coat him in a SoundCloud rapper paint job, prop him up with vanity fights such as this one with Chito, further amplifying the negative aspects of his persona, and somehow it all works like a well-oiled machine. Well, here's hoping another machine puts an end to this bullshit sometime later this year. Stop this madness, Marab! So all in all, a fantastic card, as expected, that basically does nothing to impact the sport in any significant way, also as expected. At least not in the short term. Without the vanity fight element of it, the much mythologized UFC 300 also has the potential to be this, but if it is this, I'll take it, I'll enjoy it, and I'll most likely roll my eyes at it. Much like this trolley meme that someone sent in. For yelling about mixed martial arts, this is Thinker St. James reminding you that if you care this much about MMA, you too are a fucking moron!
Change.